Welcome, and thank you for joining us to learn more about NuCalm. My name is Ashley Phillips, the Vice President of Business Development for Solace Lifesciences, the makers of NuCalm. Your presenter is Mr. Jim Poole, the President and CEO of Solace Lifesciences. Jim is an accomplished business executive with extensive experience in the dental, healthcare, biotech, market research, and IT industries. Jim earned a BA in psychology from the University of Massachusetts and an MBA in international business and marketing from Babson College. Jim serves on the board of directors of several medical device firms throughout the world. He is a recognized business leader, speaker, and accomplished author with over 20 articles published in industry trade journals. It is my pleasure to introduce Jim Poole.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, Ashley. I appreciate it. And welcome everybody to today's exciting webinar. I'd like to start by sharing my background and how I got involved in this endeavor. For about the last decade, I've been running businesses for private equity venture capital throughout the world. And we had a consulting firm. This consulting firm focused on mid-cap and small companies, entrepreneurial ventures, etc. Over the course of 7 years, we had 47 clients throughout the world. Half of our clients were in the dental vertical, the other half in financial services, medical device, pharmaceutical. In June of 2009, our consulting firm got a call from a neuroscientist in Texas. And what compelled us to look further into this and get on a plane and go to Texas to figure this out was at one point the scientist said, Jim, we have a clinical solution we've been working on for several years that can naturally relax the brain and the body within minutes with no recuperative time and no side effects. I'd never heard anything like that before, so it certainly got our attention. We flew down there, we tried NuCalm, which wasn't called NuCalm at the time, and I knew that I was physiologically different after I tried it. So after going through about 2 months of working on this and trying to figure out where we would take this stress protocol or anti-stress protocol to the market, we decided on dentistry. And about 2 months into this, back in November of 2009, I shut down the consulting firm I had worked for 7 years to build, took all the consultants in this consulting firm and put them into this endeavor. That's how compelling this story is, and that's how exciting the opportunity to bring applied neuropsychobiology to the healthcare community is for us. So let's get started. NuCalm is a proven solution that will transform your practice and your profession. And at the highest level, NuCalm mimics the body's natural pathways that we use to prepare ourselves for sleep at night. It is all natural. It has no side effects, no recuperative time. And essentially, if you think about it as sleep, you can't become addicted to NuCalm because you can't become addicted to sleep. You can't be allergic to NuCalm because you can't become allergic to sleep. We simply mimic sleep. So where did the story start? Dr. G. Blake Holloway is a neuroscientist, very well educated, and has been basically spending his entire lifetime studying applied neuropsychobiology and neuroscience. He's been studying neuroscience for 32 years. And in addition to being a scientist, he's also a healer and a clinician. And so in 1995, he was called in by the federal government to lead the efforts to treat people with post-traumatic stress disorder following the Oklahoma City bombing in Oklahoma City. And essentially what he found was that through conventional narcotic-based pharmaceuticals, he was managing the symptomology of his patients, but he wasn't helping them get better. And through this frustration, he started studying all natural clinical methods to remediate stress and anxiety at the midbrain level, as opposed to, as he would say, condemn these folks to a lifetime of misery. So what is the anatomy and physiology of anxiety? Essentially what happens is the amygdala is an almond-shaped piece in the midbrain, and it really serves as your flight deck for your fight or flight response. That senses that your body is in danger. So when that is alerted, it immediately fires neurons to the HPA axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, adrenal gland. And this all happens prior to neurons reaching the prefrontal cortex and the frontal cortex. So your body is going to mobilize to protect itself from a threat, real or perceived, before you're cognitively even aware that your body is in danger. Think about the last time you were driving and you were almost in a car accident. And think about the reaction that your body had without you telling it to have any reaction. Essentially, you will remember that all the blood flow left your extremities and went to your organs. Your peripheral vision was increased. Your olfactory and sense of smell was increased. The sense of time decreased. Your heart rate accelerated. Your breathing became shallow. This is your body in fight or flight protecting itself from a threat. So again, the amygdala fires to the HPA axis, immediately secreting adrenaline, cortisol, mobilizing to protect itself from a threat. You will find yourself being hypervigilant, tense, and prepared to take care of yourself in an environment that you perceive as hostile. Contrary to that is the parasympathetic state. So you have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, which both comprise the autonomic nervous system. What's important to note, in a parasympathetic state, you are physically incapable of having an anxious response. So if we can bring the brain and the autonomic nervous system to a parasympathetic state, we will put you in a position where you can have anxious thoughts. Your body will be incapable of the anxious response that we just discussed. This is a safe technology. There are no side effects. There's no recuperative time. There's no supervision needed. There's no need to monitor. It's predictable. This quickly neutralizes the stress response in most patients at the midbrain level. It's reliable. It improves pain management, patient comfort, and patient healing. How does it do that? Well, when you are in the fight or flight response, or you're protecting yourself from a perceived hostile environment, such as a medical procedure or a medicament, your body does not want to be invaded. Therefore, its resistance mechanisms are peaked. Your metabolism is peaked. You burn through local anesthetic, etc. If you can put your brain and your body in a parasympathetic nervous system dominant state, you will reduce your inflammation response, you'll improve your healing response, and you will also improve the comfort of the procedure itself. Lastly, NuCalm is simple. The complexities of the applied neuropsychobiology behind NuCalm is quite sophisticated and quite interesting and curious. But the application of NuCalm is exceptionally easy. 4 simple steps. Step 1, all-natural chewable tablets. This is a proprietary formulation of 7 inhibitory neurotransmitters designed to interrupt the adrenal response, which we discussed before. The amygdala, the HPA axis, cortisol, adrenaline mobilized for a threat. We're going to interrupt that response at the midbrain level. Most of the nutrients that are in the chewable tablets are manufactured in our own brains, and these are all generally recognized as safe, regulated by the FDA, same as vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C. The main driver in this chewable tablet formulation is gamma-aminobutyric acid, GABA, GABA A and GABA B. GABA is responsible for preparing your brain at night for sleep. GABA interrupts the adrenal flow. So before you go to sleep at night, as you lie in your bed, you may find yourself rigid as you're processing the day's information. GABA is what interrupts that adrenal flow, stops your brain from over-processing information. And think about what it feels like when your body lets go and you begin to fall to sleep. You'll feel the gravitational pull of your body into your bed, and you'll very much relax, and your brain will go kind of to la-la land. That's the first stage of sleep, alpha, and that's the direct result of the neurochemistry of GABA. What's also in here is L-theanine, an extract of green tea, which helps upregulate the production of alpha brain waves and helps with the absorption of GABA. Also casein tryptic hydrolysate, which is the protein in mother's milk that helps babies go to sleep. And that is hydrolyzed. There's no allergic issue for lactose-intolerant humans. So it's interesting what you can do with combinatorial chemistry. Second step here is called cranial electrotherapy stimulation, not to be confused with TENS. This is a subsensory microcurrent stimulation. There's patches that are going to go just below the mastoid process, which is a great access point to the brain. And we use this in the NuCalm system synergistically to improve the efficacy of the chewable tablets. So this cranial electrotherapy stimulation serves as a catalyst to create greater cell permeability for the receptor sites in the brain so that GABA and the other nutrients are actually absorbed. So these first 2 steps work synergistically together, and they work to interrupt the adrenal flow of the fight or flight response and basically prepare the body and the brain to be relaxed for the duration of a healthcare procedure. Third step here is called neuroacoustic software that leverages what's called binaural beat frequency following response. And essentially, what we're going to do is entrain the brainwave function to the first stage of sleep. Your patients and you, when you NuCalm, are going to listen to classical music. And by virtue of the low frequency of classical music, it has an inherent relaxation response. It also has a distraction response. But that is not why we're using this. We're simply using the classical music as a carrier wave to present the brain with a beat. Now, you cannot hear a 12 hertz beat, but your brain can pick that up. So we're going to use classical music as a carrier wave, but the sophisticated nature of this neuroacoustic software, this is embedded in the classical music. You cannot hear this, but we're going to be able to present the brain with a 12 hertz beat. And we're going to do this using neuroacoustic entrainment. Binaural beat was founded in 1839 by a German scientist. And essentially what it's going to do is we're going to present dissonant frequencies in each ear. So for simplicity's sake, we want to present the brain with a 12 hertz beat. So in the left ear, we'll present 100 hertz embedded in the classical music, and in the right, we'll present 112 hertz embedded in the classical music. The brain cannot handle that dissonance. It says, wait a second here. This isn't right. The caudate nucleus of the midbrain will naturally subtract the difference, and the brain is left with a 12 hertz beat. This is very sophisticated neuroacoustic software. It took 7 years to develop, and interestingly enough, we don't simply present the brain with a 12 hertz beat and leave it there. The brain gets bored easily and will jump either into beta and anxiety or down into sleep. We pace the brainwave function in the first stage of sleep. From 12 hertz down to 10 hertz, down to 8 hertz, up to 10 hertz, up to 12 hertz, down to 10 hertz. The neuroacoustic music is 2 hours, 4 separate 30-minute tracks, all on a continuous loop. The first track is classical string, the second track is classical guitar, the third track is new age spa music, and the fourth track is classical piano. It will then continuously loop. So when you begin the procedure, it's imperative that you start at the beginning. If it's a long procedure, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, it just stays in a continuous loop, and the person will stay in that parasympathetic nervous system dominant state. The longest procedure on record to date is 9 hours. 4.5 hours, a half-hour break, 4.5 hours. Brainwave frequency. So what are we talking about when we're talking about bringing your brainwave function in the first stage of sleep in alpha? Beta is day-to-day wakefulness, 13 hertz to 30. That is how we're normally functioning. So most human beings who are well-adjusted and just functioning in everyday rat race, called the American culture, you're oscillating at 12, 13, 14, 15 hertz. An over-caffeinated type A individual might peak up there 15, 16, 17 hertz. But look at this, a high beta individual that's consumed with fear and anxiety at the midbrain level, their brainwave function is oscillating all the way up to 38 hertz, literally a magnitude of almost 3 times your brainwave function. So think about that. That is why people are sweating profusely, they have a rash on their neck, they're not thinking that clearly, they're not cognitively all that available, their hands are sweaty. It's a very physical manifestation of their brainwave going crazy. Alpha is the first stage of sleep associated with relaxation, meditation, and idleness. Theta is restorative sleep and loss of sense of time and place, and really you're dreaming. And then delta is deep sleep. So those are the brainwave functions, but for NuCalm, we're going to oscillate the brainwave function in the first stage of sleep, alpha to the top end of theta. The last element here, the 4-component synergistic platform of NuCalm, is light-blocking glasses. We are visually stimulated by light as human beings. So if we put your brainwave function in the first stage of sleep, but allow you to be visually stimulated by the bright light of an operatory and the sight of sharp instrumentation coming towards your mouth, you will undoubtedly stay above where we want your brainwave function to go. So we're going to visually block out light. You're going to ask your patients to close their eyes and allow themselves to relax, but we're going to put block-out glasses on just to ensure that we mitigate visual stimulation. So these are the 4 components, 4 steps to NuCalm. And essentially, we will synergistically mimic the natural process of readying the body for sleep. So again, the neurophysiology, neurochemistry, and the physics that we're utilizing are sophisticated, but the application is very simple. It's easy to do, it's easy to self-administer, and it's easy to administer in any healthcare environment as well. So why dentistry? Why are we working on dentistry when we have a solution here that addresses the human condition of anxiety? When we present NuCalm to people all over the country, people say, well, you really should be at kiosks in airports, and you should be with professional athletes, and you should be, in intense surgeries. And There's a lot of things we can do. We chose dentistry for a couple of reasons. One, we have a background working in the dental vertical for the past 10 years, and a lot of our friends who are great clinicians are dentists. Two, there's latent demand for a solution that can help with fear and anxiety of the American population. By far, the most dominant psychological factor behind patient behaviors is anxiety. Causes of dental anxiety. First and foremost, fear of pain. People inherently want to protect themselves, and unfortunately, despite the advances in technology, technique, people aren't really getting hurt in a dental chair anymore. But no one's really changed the perceptions Americans have about that. So when you think dentistry, people often correlate that with pain. Real or not, the perception is our reality. The feeling of the loss of personal space. We as humans are anthropologically conditioned to protect our mouths as a means of survival. We use our mouths to eat, to stay alive. We use our mouths to communicate, such as I'm doing right now. And we use our mouths to express intimacy. So I could do an easy social experiment. I could shake your hand. Great. I could be more intimate and touch you on the shoulder. But if I reach for your mouth, you'll inadvertently step away because we need to protect our mouths. Yet in a dental environment, we open our mouths and someone's hands are deeply in our mouths. The feeling of helplessness and loss of control. Homer Reed is on our advisory board, and he's an exceptional human being, speaker, philosopher, clinician, and he's got a lot of sayings. And one of my favorite sayings by him is, what is trust? Trust is voluntary vulnerability. You're asking adults to come into your office, lie on their back, and open their mouth. It doesn't get much more vulnerable than that. So just by virtue of them doing that, it shows tacitly that they trust you and respect your judgment and your expertise as their clinician. The anticipation of pain and discomfort. So many people don't like going to the dentist. That's fine. Even those who don't mind going to the dentist, such as myself, you're basically going to be lying down on your back, mouth open, bright light on you, a couple people's gloved hands in your mouth, instrumentation in your mouth, smell of burning enamel, water in your mouth, don't know if you're going to be swallowing, your tongue's moving around, or suction in your mouth. It's just not a very comfortable environment. The feeling of embarrassment and shame. There are 60 million Americans who avoid going to the dentist altogether. There are only 309 million Americans in the United States, so literally 1/5 of the population are not going to the dentist. And when they finally end up going as an emergency patient, they either can't masticate or they're in so much pain, they have to get teeth pulled. Well, for those folks, you know that they're coming in, they know they've not been compliant with their oral health care. So there's a lot of embarrassment and shame with that profile. The fear of anesthetic side effects and the fear injections won't work. So here's some of the causes of dental anxiety. How does this make people behave? Gagging, tongue battles, excessive salivation, clenching jaw, stalling and uncooperative behavior, clutching and grabbing, and unpredictable movements. There's a lot of elements here to your clinical everyday effectiveness, efficiencies, and ability to have great quality outcomes, all related to the manifestation of the anxious response. 82% of the population have some level of anxiety coming to see you. That's 260 million people in the United States alone. But it's not your patient's fault. Your patients are simply doing what they're programmed to do as human beings, and that is to protect themselves in an environment that they don't view as safe. An anxious response is triggered whether the threat is real or perceived. That means that the black and white physiology of the amygdala and the HPA axis, cortisol, adrenaline, blood flow from the extremities to your organs, hypervigilance, tension, all of the things associated with fight or flight happen regardless of the stimulus. Once triggered, the only way to calm down is to remove the stimulus. Why is that? Well, the HPA axis is a unilateral axis. The hypothalamus serves as our thermostat to regulate our equilibrium between our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Yet, it's a one-way axis to the adrenal cortex, so there's no negative feedback loop from the adrenal cortex to the hypothalamus to say, hey, we're not in danger, stop the fight or flight response. So you cannot be talked out of an anxious response. When you are in the fight or flight response, you are literally cognitively impeded. You cannot process information. So anxious patient behaviors, they create a stressful environment, they startle, they sweat, they gag, they swallow, they complain. It's not fun. It's really an emotional, psychological, and physical beating. And as a business, anxious patients have negative experiences, and they're not a good referral source. When someone leaves your office and they've had a terrible experience brought on by their fear and anxiety, they're not all that excited to go out and proselytize to the masses how great you are as a clinician. So how does patient anxiety affect dentists? It compromises the quality of care you can provide. It adversely impacts your production, whether their anxious response manifests in no-shows or stalling tactics or the gag reflex. It's slowing down your production. Bad for business, lost referrals, and most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, it negatively impacts the entire mood and atmosphere of your office. So on average, how does this impact on the business? The average general practitioner is chair-side 32.6 hours a week to treat patients. So you have a finite amount of time to produce. Let's look at behaviors caused by anxiety. No-shows, stalling tactics, gagging, tongue movement, re-administering local anesthetic. So we're here to help you. We have a clinical solution that can help stop the madness, and it can help create a more predictable clinical environment by managing the most unpredictable equation of dentistry, and that is the patient behavior. NuCalm has been validated by dentists and patients. Dentists in 44 states are currently using NuCalm. As of January 1st, over 63,800 dental patients have used NuCalm with exceptional satisfaction rates. 95% want it as their ongoing treatment, and 98% state they would recommend it to their friends and family. To talk about a business driver, talk about an opportunity to build your business in a tough economy, when 98% of the people that use NuCalm state they would recommend it to their friends and family, you know they're talking about it. Because people don't come to the dental practice expecting to have a relaxed, comfortable experience and to feel good afterwards. The science has been proven. NuCalm was developed over an 8-year period, costing the company $2.5 million in research and development, and beta tested on over 13,000 patients. NuCalm is research-based. We study neurophysiological markers and use very sophisticated equipment. Nexus 4 and Nexus 10 devices can measure a lot of neuromarkers. So we're looking at neurotransmitter testing. We have QEEG at 32 sites on the brain. We study galvanic skin response, heart rate variability, blood volume pulse, slow cortical response, and alpha-theta crossovers. There's a lot of sophisticated neuroscience behind this, and for those of you who have an appetite to learn more, we have a lot of research to share with you, either in the NuCalm library or just online on our website at NuCalm.com. Here's Dr. Paul Denemark, quote-unquote, NuCalm seemed too good to be true, but the science behind it was enough proof for me to give it a try. I was very surprised at my patient's overwhelming delight. The protocol is very simple. My surgical assistant was able to provide a wonderful relaxation experience to my patient after only a 2-minute review of the step. Galvanic skin response. This is what we use for lie detector tests. When you tell a lie, your sympathetic nervous system is aroused, and it conducts electricity at the skin level. So this galvanic skin response, and this is one of the markers we use to study the efficacy of NuCalm, this is a patient baseline, and you'll see oscillating between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. This is a patient on NuCalm. So you'll see a deep dive into a parasympathetic dominant state and sustain there. So what is NuCalm doing? It allows dentists to perform dentistry without compromise. What does that mean? It means deep relaxation maintained for the entire procedure. So stop and think about what that means for you. You mean instead of working on someone who's gagging and moving around and fidgeting and stalling and muscle tension in the oral cavity and all the stuff that you contend with on a daily basis, they're actually going to be at peace, relaxing in the first stage of sleep in your chair. Significantly reduces the gag reflex, tongue movement, excessive swallowing, muscle tension, defensive postures, stalling tactics, startle responses, and reduces the amount of local anesthesia needed. When you create a cellular homeostasis and parasympathetic nervous system dominance, you are going to metabolize local a lot slower. So wouldn't it be nice not to have to reapply local, pack cord, re-isolate, and all the stuff that you contend with when people are burning through local because of their metabolism and their stress? So NuCalm can transform your patients and your practice. Dentists, you only make money when your hands are in someone's mouth. This is a big challenge. It's a big challenge for your time. It's a big challenge for how you're going to manage your team, how you're going to bring new technology to your team, how you're going to get your lab work done, how you're going to interact with your patient base. All these elements are a challenge to the dental profession because to produce, your hands have to be in mouth. And we talked about this already. 32.6 hours a week is the average general practitioner in the United States market, chair side. The average unscheduled treatments per dental office. We did an audit with Pinnacle Practices, a practice management consulting firm that serves the greater Texas region. Been in business since 1987, has over 2,100 clients. We did an audit over 2,000 dental practices in 2008. And what we asked and what we found through the records was how much treatment was presented in a 365-day period and never scheduled. And the amount will be alarming. $1,249,817. $1,249,817. For those who are into statistical analysis, you'll know normal distribution requires a sample size of 30 for a significance of 95%. Well, this is 2,000 sample size. So you can extrapolate that to say, hey, within a standard deviation of about $50,000, this is your practice. $1,249,000. Treatment presented, never scheduled and executed. Why is that? What's going on chairside here? The moment of truth of the treatment plan. Top 5 ways your patients rationalize saying no to treatment plans. Can't afford it. Too busy. Nobody to drive me. It can wait. I'll think about it. But what are they really thinking? I'm exhausted, stressed, freaked out, and I need to get the heck out of here. This happens every single day. Their excuses are irrational because 92% of the population believe an attractive smile is an important social asset. Thank goodness for pop culture and our obsession with Hollywood. People magazine and all the key drivers, the Swan and all these makeover shows, has really driven demand for elective cosmetic dentistry. 74% of the American population believe an unattractive smile can hurt their career success. And here's the big nut. Here's the exciting piece for dentistry. 52% of the American population are dissatisfied with their smile. The color of their teeth, diastemas, chips, amalgams, whatever it is, they are not satisfied. So there's latent demand for elective cosmetic dentistry in the dental market. There's $1.249 million in a 365-day period that are presented for treatment plans and never scheduled, mostly out of fear. 55% of the American population state that fear is the number one obstacle to getting dentistry done that they want done. Now, cost is a big obstacle as well. But fortunately, thanks in large part to Home Depot, Target, Best Buy, and all these big consumer companies, they have conditioned over the years Americans to buy today what they can't afford. It's called a monthly payment plan. So if you offer care credit and other credit opportunities, cost is not as much a hurdle as it used to be. Fear still is. So before NuCalm, dentists had to make a trade-off to help meet the needs of anxious and fearful patients. You either provide an anxiolytic treatment, oral conscious sedation, IV sedation, nitrous, that has unintended side effects, or you play chairside therapist and wear yourself out, and on a daily basis drive home just absolutely emotionally fatigued and physically fatigued because you're fighting against the anxious behaviors of your patient base. I love this quote. Hippocrates, cure sometimes, treat often, comfort always. NuCalm can't cure everything, but it can make everybody comfortable. So NuCalm was 10 years old. It was launched in dental in September of 2010. In parallel to that launch, we've been working in cardiology with one of the top cardiologists in the world out of Texas, using NuCalm in the catheterization labs. We're working in oncology with patients to help remediate nausea from vagus nerve stimulation and to improve their sleep at night. When your body's being poisoned, your heart rate variability and your slow cortical response are compromised, you're not sleeping as well. So we're working there. We're working in psychotherapy. Any of you have ever been to a therapy session, you know when you're in the waiting room, there's a lot of anxiety because you're going to be in a vulnerable position talking to somebody. So what we do in psychotherapy is the person comes in 45 minutes early, NuCalms, and then goes in for the cognitive behavioral therapy. And essentially you get rid of a lot of the anxiety, and we're having a lot of good effect there. We're also studying NuCalm and its efficacy on sleep. And we're studying this with different profiles of high stressful occupations. So there's a lot of things we're doing. That's what Solace can do with NuCalm, and that is comfort people. So the ideal dental patient makes regular appointments, shows up on time, trusts you and your team, does not move or wiggle during procedures, says yes to your recommended treatment plan, pays their bill, and refers friends and family. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a technology out there that could create, out of your 1,500 or 1,600 patients of record, ideal patient profiles for everybody? This would make your profession a lot easier. It would reduce a lot of your stress, and it would make you a more productive business person as well. With NuCalm, you can create the ideal patient. There are no pharmaceuticals. There are no permits required. Patients may drive following a procedure when used as a standalone relaxation therapy, and this enhances other sedation and pain management protocols by reducing anxiety and the body's resistance. Many of our clinicians love the combination of nitrous with NuCalm. So you start someone on NuCalm, and then you'd administer nitrous. If someone typically would use 10, 20, 30%, you'd probably cut it in half. But it is a very safe approach, use a lot less nitrous, and it is a very, very powerful sedation protocol. We also have a lot of folks that don't like nitrous at all, don't like the unpredictability of oral constant sedation. So they've essentially supplanted all other sedation protocols with NuCalm, including a lot of our periodontists. NuCalm and local anesthetic. The patient satisfaction, 95% of the patients that have used NuCalm state they would use it again. That is an incredible number for a subjective clinical solution. But the reality is people typically fear dentistry. They don't expect to go to a dental appointment and leave feeling relaxed. 98% of the people that have used NuCalm would recommend it to their friends and family. So if you can improve the patient comfort, patient experience, they're going to feel compelled to talk about it. That's just the nature of being a human. So NuCalm can help you build your brand. What happens when a patient comes in and you're using NuCalm on them and you explain this as, hey, we've invested in a revolutionary technology that's going to naturally relax you. You're going to be more comfortable today and you'll probably get out faster. What are they thinking? They're thinking you are empathetic and focused on delivering exceptional care. They're thinking that you care enough about their comfort and experience to invest in advanced technologies. And lastly, you are a leading clinician utilizing the best technologies the industry has to offer. This is a really important point. That last point is really important because that is building a brand. That is standing for something. Alexander Hamilton has a great quote, and that is, those who stand for nothing fall for everything. Well, marketing is simply standing for something, being great at what you state you're good at, and standing for that. And so by virtue of you standing for a leading-edge practice that invests in the latest advancements in technology to further support and create a comfortable, relaxing dental experience, by virtue of you standing for that, you have by default repositioned your competitors in your local environment. But the reality is you are in the service business. And so the perception of your patients is your business reality. How they perceive you, your clinical skills, your interpersonal skills, how they feel when they come into your door, the whole network of experiences is your business reality. So if you can improve upon that and build upon that, you will invariably grow your business. NuCalm differentiates your practice. You're going to grow from existing patients, and that is all the case acceptance. $1.249 million in treatment plans presented and not done. 55% of the population, their biggest obstacle is fear. You will take care of that hurdle. You're going to have a lot more people doing elective cosmetics that they have refused to do strictly out of fear. Growth from new patients. This is going to happen when your folks come in, they have a great experience, they talk to their friends and family members. Improve patient satisfaction, improve procedural efficiencies and efficacy. How is that? Simple. Remediate gagging, tongue battles, greater access to the oral cavity, stalling behaviors, all the chatter chairside. Remove that in a safe manner, and you will cruise through your dentistry. And then greater retention of key team members because you guys aren't being worn out on a daily basis by the anxious behaviors of your patients. NuCalm helps you build loyalty among your existing patients. The cost to acquire a new patient is 5 times greater than retaining one. So take great care of the people that you've already built trust with. If you have 1,500 patients of record, that's 1,500 people know you. They know your team knows them. You've built a strong relationship of trust and success and history together. Take care of those folks. Harvest the opportunity in the 52% of the American population that are not satisfied with their smile. Give your patients a red carpet treatment. NuCalm means less waiting because you're going to have less interference through the anxious behaviors. It's going to make patients feel special, that you'd be willing to invest in an advanced technology that's being used in a lot of other medical verticals, and you brought it into the practice to take good care of them. You'll have more time for personal interactions, and it's going to make your patients ideal patients. If you can stop right now what you're doing every day and redirect some of your efforts, be faster clinically, free up some more of your free time, do little things like do a pre-care call. Look at your schedule for the rest of the week and say, okay, there's 5 to 10 patients here that we absolutely just love. Give them a call the night before their appointment. Says, hey, Betty Lou, I see you're coming in for 2 o'clock prophy. How you doing? That would blow their mind. Or you have a great patient coming in, take your gloves off, leave an operatory, go outside and shake hands with them. Little things like that will go a long way in their perception and their desire to talk about you. Well, thank you very much for attending today's webinar. I really appreciate your time and your enthusiasm for listening to what NuCalm can do for you, your team, your patients. So now I'm going to hand it back over to Ashley Phillips. She's going to walk you through the economics of NuCalm and how you can get started and join NuCalm.
Thank you, Jim. There are two simple ways to get started. The first is the retail system lease. That is $749 a month for 1 year. That includes the cost of one NuCalm system and one NuCalm refill that is auto-shipped for each month for a total of 11 months. This is a zero-interest financing lease. There are no fees. It is free shipping and handling. This also includes your one-on-one training with you and your team and one of our very qualified specialists. At the end of that year, that NuCalm system is yours. You will own that system, and there are no ongoing fees or maintenance. The second way you can purchase NuCalm, and this is for a limited time, and it's a special added value to each of you for joining us today, is the webinar promotion. What that is 2 NuCalm systems with unlimited refills for your patients, you, and your team for $999 a month for 12 months. This is also a zero-interest lease where you have unlimited free shipping and handling. This also includes unlimited training for you and your team and professional marketing support to help you introduce this to your community. To take advantage of this limited time valuable webinar promotion, when you call in, please provide the following promotional code, NCW312. To place your order, please call area code 877-668-2256. Again, that number is 877-668-2256, or you can email us at sales@nucalm.com. When you place your order for your NuCalm systems, they will ship to you within 2 to 3 business days, so you can immediately start enjoying the many benefits of NuCalm. And again, don't forget to use your promotion code when you call in to place your order. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to serving you as a NuCalm client.